everybody. I'm Linda, the old bird. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm with Laura, and let me tell you what we're going to be discussing. We are going to talk about quilting machines. Now, you know the old bird knows nothing about quilting machines. As I learned to quilt, I wanted her to come on and just talk with me. So, look, if you have any questions, just type them in the feed. Hello, thank you for joining us. Just type them in the feed, and I'll make certain that I ask Laura the questions. Now, Laura, hi.
Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I'm happy to. Thank you for having me. And I'd like to introduce Diane. Oh, you got to get
Hi,
down to the camera. There you are, Diane.
hi,
Diane, my helper here in the studio, here in the shop.
hello. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Now you can go do your thing.
Now, Laura, are you an expert quilter?
That's what I'm told. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know if anybody's a total expert at anything, but yes, I'm known as a very accomplished quilter. I've done a lot of show quilts. Um,
oh,
I've won a lot of ribbons and
oh,
been recognized, and I'm being considered to be published in a book.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
on vintage
That's
quilting.
amazing.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing. Oh,
So it's
Laura.
pretty cool. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, which
Okay,
leads to why I have what I have.
okay.
So um, I became a quilter in Germany the last time we were stationed there with my husband.
Okay.
We had lost our 3-year-old daughter about a year earlier, a little over a year earlier. And there was this huge void in my life. We had a little boy, but being about 7, 8 years old, he want to go play. He doesn't want to fill mom's void. And the lady that lived next door quilted, and I went, "Hey, will you teach me how to quilt?" She did. And I had to learn the ruler. She didn't do nothing for me. She told me what to do. And then I took classes, and it's just been this process over 30 years of learning how to quilt. And because it's been so long that I've been doing this, my mother came to live with us. My father passed away in November, about 12 years ago. And in March, my mother came to live with us. It was obvious that she couldn't live alone and in the community where she was. So she came to live with my husband and I. And that was wonderful 2 years. She wasn't the same woman that raised me. It was just a good time. And in March, her last birthday that she had on earth, she was informed that she'd sold her house. Well, the conversation was I'd moved my sewing area 3 places in the house and was now downstairs again so I could be close to her, was about quilting machines. But where are you going to put it? And they're so expensive. And it was just something that we could all talk about. But then I went over to my girlfriend's house, and then a few days later went across the street to a girlfriend's house that both had long arms and came home with quilted quilts. My mom knew how long it took me to quilt because back in the 80s when I learned this, nobody quilted at home. Everything was hand quilted, and
Yes.
they were just in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. They just started to quilt a little bit on their domestics, and it was not embraced.
Okay.
No, because even quilt shows wouldn't take those quilts because they weren't quilted by hand.
Oh,
And we still have purists in our industry that don't feel a quilt is really a quilt unless it's hand quilted.
okay.
So I've been through this process and I learned how to quilt on a quilt. Well, the quilting really saved me. It saved me emotionally, filled that void. And I also have bipolar. So I can put all that hyperness into the quilting that when I become manic, I can be a manic quilter. And
Yes.
when I'm depressed, I can go quilt. So,
Yes.
it's a real saver, and I work with veterans
Yes.
and get them to quilt and stuff like that. So during
Yes.
this process, in March, my mother finds out that she sold her home.
Hi, Clint.
In April, she told when she got the check, she told my husband, "Now I want you to buy Laura one of those quilting machines and don't cheap out on her." And that's what they did. They conspired to get me my quilting machine. And my husband did a
Fantastic.
lot of research.
Yes.
And yes, we went with the handy quilter. At that time, because this has been a little over 10 years ago, I
Yes.
went with the handy quilter fusion with a 14-foot frame.
Okay.
Because even for private um, quilting, I never wanted to sit down because then you still have to baste. And so here's what happened. So
Okay.
in April, they ordered the machine. In May, my mother went into the hospital, and she was always in and out of the hospital, had a real bad heart. But this was her final time. And then I got a
Okay.
call. I was in education doing SAT tests, and I got a call from the office that my neighbors were calling. And I went, okay. So I called them, and there was a semi blocking the road in front of my house. Handy Quilter had shipped my machine, and there were crates all over the yard that had to be bought in the house, and a big semi. And so I came home, and they put it all in the house, and we started the process that we'd already started of rearranging the house. We would go to the hospital every night and show mom the process. Because one of the reasons we went with Handy Quilter is they sent a DVD that showed step by step exactly how to put this machine together, how to put the frame together. And
Okay.
so every night we would play a little bit of that DVD, and my
Hi,
husband
Lynn.
and I would put together some of the frame and
Uh-huh.
get the room set up, and then we go and see mom and show her the pictures, and then we got it all set up, and she came home for her final time under hospice. And when they were bringing her in, there was a great big archway where you could see the machine, and she made the paramedics back her up, and she told them, she said, "My daughter makes quilts on that, and she's going to be making them on that machine. I bought that for her."
Good.
So that's a little bit of
Hi, Lynn.
history for you. So what
I mean,
happened
hi,
was
Lynn.
what happened was in comparing prices, the pricing wasn't as important to us as the education. I wanted uh, uh, I wanted a company that had good education, and I wanted a company that also would provide service. And
Okay.
had service people around here. What I have since discovered is if you're going to buy a long arm, if you're going to buy a $25,000 embroidery machine, and one of the reasons why you do is because you got this great sewing center that will support it, don't count on that because they closed. And
I
we've
see.
all learned that during the pandemic, especially. But even
Yes.
pre-pandemic, we just there. Some of these shop owners, some of these people who've been maintaining our machinery, have been at it for a long time, and they want to retire. So when you go to buy a machine, no matter what machine you buy, in my humble opinion, you have to look at several things. Yes, you have to look at cost. And Handy Quilter is number one in the world for long arms and mid arms. And
Now, Laura,
yes,
I know nothing about these machines.
okay, I'm going to
When
show you
you
mine.
when you say quilting machines, that it means the sewing machines that have the long base to
And a
quilt.
huge frame. Uh huh.
And you also mean long arms, which are those long, long things.
I'm going to show you my machine here in just a second. Let me unplug the power. Okay.
And then you said some other type of arm.
See, there's the long arm. There's the whoops.
I see.
I need to get out of the picture.
I
There,
see.
there's the machine. with that.
Okay,
And there's the computer, and I have other things attached because I do videos.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, but they called it a long arm because,
You have that long thing.
yep,
Yeah.
you have that long arm.
Okay.
Okay. And then you
Okay.
have all this space, all that long area to load your quilt.
I see.
Okay. So
So
when you
now
load, when you,
somebody that's not going to be making these to sell,
mm-hmm,
I would not need a long arm.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
Okay. So let me explain.
Tell me.
So I was
Okay.
not in business. Mm-mm. Mom died in May, and
Okay.
there's a huge layoff countrywide across the United States of educators, and I got sucked into that. And I could come back into education, but it was in a different position. So
Okay.
I did determine that, you know what? I'd always told everybody nobody can pay me enough for my quilts. They'll never pay what I need to ask for. Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. So she passed in May. I had the machine. I set it up, had my knees replaced, and then I started standing at the machine. It was 6 months before I could stand at the machine. And
Okay.
um, that's when I started quilting. And in December, I decided, oh, what the heck? I think I'm going to try this and see if I can't quilt for other people and make quilts. And what really God led me to do was make the memory quilts, the memorial quilts, t-shirt quilts, and stuff like that. Now, I highly recommend that if you can afford it. One of the reasons we went with Handy Quilter, now we paid for the machine outright, but a lot of people go with Handy Quilter because they have wonderful financing. They they
I see.
they do it all the time at 0%.
I
Okay.
see.
And I have a 14-foot frame because it was a gift. I still to this day don't think I'd have one if I had to buy it myself. And then later, years later, my husband bought me the computer. But I
I
did it
see.
all myself because I mean, who can afford $10,000, $12,000 computer? But he
So
did it for,
Laura, a long arm has
but
a computer.
well, you yes, you can get the computer and attach it, and it has a, you have to put in a bunch of equipment with that computer that it talks to, and then it'll run and do your stitching for you. Okay, so
Okay.
here's why I recommend a long arm if you can afford it. Okay, first of all, I highly recommend that you get a company. For me, it's Handy Quilter that does great education and has great support from their base company. Because as I said earlier, we don't know if those people are going to be there to help us time our machine and give it a spa treatment every year. They may go out of business.
Yes.
Okay. And Handy Quilter's wonderful at that. I've had to ship stuff to them and they've fixed it, or they shipped me back the parts. They've told me who in this area does it that I didn't even know about. So no matter what long arm you want to support, okay, want to buy, you need to understand that um, um, you need that support, because no matter how good you are with your machine, you will find that you're going to need maintenance done to it, and you're going
I
to need
see.
to do maintenance to it.
I
Okay,
see.
so that was paramount to me, as well as education,
Okay.
because we had a lot of quilt shops in our area, but none that sold long arms.
I
Nonetheless,
see.
fix them or
I
show
see.
me how to do that.
I
Show
see.
me how to long arm. Now, if you're a hobbyist, if you do this for all your loved ones and, for cancer people and for donations and stuff, I think it's awesome. I got to tell you, between the computer and not having to get down on my hands and knees and pin base the quilt, this thing is worth its weight in gold, plus some.
Okay. Okay.
For my health, it's awesome. I don't have to be, I am over that machine. I do a lot of custom stuff for shows,
Okay.
but I don't have to. I can have the computer do a lot of the work. Yes, don't get me wrong. You
Okay.
don't just load a oh, I keep getting out of your range. Sorry. You don't just load
Oh, you're
your
fine.
you don't just load a program into that computer and go make breakfast and have a cup of coffee. You
Okay.
still have to be at that frame.
I
And
see.
people who aren't at that frame regret it
I see.
because I can't tell you how many times I've seen on Facebook and in different groups, somebody said, I just looked away for a minute and they got a hole in it.
Yeah.
Or it the timing was off. The thread is all bunched up underneath or whatever. But if you're sitting there watching it and paying attention, after a while, you'll know that there's something wrong. Even if the top
Okay.
stitch looks okay, and you can
Okay.
pause it and you can fix it. But if you're not there because you're off getting a soda, then you don't know until
I,
you got feet or inches of stuff that you got to rip out, you know? So
I see.
don't ever think that you could buy a long arm with the computer and you're going to be able to set this baby up just lickety split. Nope. You have to program it, you have to measure, you have to tell that computer exactly where you want things. And there's a lot of good education out there. And I am
Okay.
part of uh, uh, program, not a program, but a company called MK Quilting University. And
Okay.
they just invited me to be part of the team. So I'll be teaching online classes that are pre-recorded, and she truly is a university. Okay,
Oh, wonderful.
and what they want to do is they want to become like the Walmart of the quilting world, of the quilting
I see.
industry. So if you want to learn how to machine applique, you go to MK University and see if they have an associate that does that. If you want to learn how to long arm, MK teaches that. MK is the absolute queen of the Pro Stitcher Premium, which is the
So
latest.
they are available now.
Oh yeah, MK
Let me,
University certainly is.
now
Yep.
that's online, mkuniversity.com.
Yes, you'll be able to find her.
Okay.
Now, if you can, um, let me see, you can learn a lot from her and all her associates. Like me, I'll be doing. I hope to do in the future. I don't have any classes there yet because you have to go through the process of getting everybody's permission to use their products and their patterns and everything else.
I see.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. So I do have permission to use patterns that I use on quilting leather. I am known as I quilt leather and
Okay.
do a lot of other things. Now, getting back to the long arm, what I would encourage people to do is I want you to understand if you get a sit down like a Sweet 16 or one of the mid arms, you still have to pin baste them. You still have to get somebody to baste it for you so that you can load it or move it around like you do on a domestic machine. That's one of the absolute best things I can for me about having a long arm. I don't have to
Okay.
baste. I don't have to baste. I connect it. I put it on the poles and I tighten it and my back's nice and flat. I put the batting and the batting, I mean, it's not that simple. You still have to learn how to do all that and make it straight and everything. But oh my goodness, I'm not down on my hands and knees pinning a quilt together anymore. And, aside from the fact that it saves a lot of time to have a long arm, I think it can save on your the frustration of having to pin base and then finding out that you have a fold. And you can get that on a long arm if you're not careful, but the likelihood of getting it on the long arm is less and less. So
Okay.
price is always a factor. So look at your company, see what they're offering. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. There might be a reason they might be going out of business. I recently was informed that we have another long arm company that is closing.
Okay.
And so you need to be careful of that and look into their background, because I know one of the largest long arm quilting companies in our industry is on its fourth owner.
I see.
So how long is it going to be around? Whereas, some of the other like Handy Quilter and some of the other long arm companies are big companies. The Crown Royal is the fusion, but um, Baby Lock sells it. They're made in the exact same fabric. I mean, yeah, same
Factory. I got
factory.
you.
Yeah, they're both, but they have a different cover on them. That's it. They're the exact same machine. So you could get support from Handy Quilter or Baby Lock. My distributor for Baby Lock comes to my home and gives my Handy Quilter its spa treatment or puts it back into time when I need it. So, he knows
Oh,
those machines
Laura.
in and out, and he's not. He is authorized to be able to work on Handy Quilters. But if he goes out of business, I know that I can go to Handy Quilter and find out. I go to their website and find out who's around me, or I can send it to them, or I can take it to them in Utah. And I think that that's just, I can't tell you how important that is. And
Yeah.
the videos they have, the YouTube support they have, MK University for Pro Stitcher Premium, their computer program, their latest and greatest, and it is the best in the industry. It's the best in the world. It's renowned. It's amazing what it can do. I don't even know
Well,
everything it can
Laura,
do.
I'm telling you, you have really been a blessing to us today. I have learned so much. I took notes and
Well,
I'll
I
put,
hope so. This is great. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and
If you
I'll
can
put
afford it,
notes.
yeah, if you could afford it, I'm telling you, I have the 14-foot frame because I make Texas quilts. You know what I mean? So even my baby quilts are bigger than most lap quilts.
I got you. Well,
However,
Laura, we have to end now,
okay,
but
they,
I really thank you for all that you've shared. I
thank
took
you.
notes, and I'm going to put the link to the MK University, and we're going to look for you there. We wish you the very, very best,
Thank
and
you.
we know it's going to be much success.
If anybody's interested in following me or receiving my newsletter, my
Yes.
business is qualityquiltsbylaura.com.
Okay, I'll put the link in the feed, guys.
Qualityquiltsbylaura.com.
Quality Quilts by Laura.
.com.
.com. I'll
And
put the link in the feed, guys.
same name. You can contact me through my website, ask me questions, whatever. And
Oh,
you can follow
thank you,
me on Facebook.
Laura. Thank you, Laura.
Thank
And
you so much, Linda, for giving me this opportunity.
oh, thank you. I needed to know this, and we have enjoyed you so much. And
Yep.
guys, thank you for joining me. Someone else is saying thank you. So, Laura,
Great.
you've been a blessing to us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye, and everybody have a blessed day. Bye bye.
Bye.